It is hard to imagine today, but for decades Israel and Iran were quiet partners. Before 1979, under the rule of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the two nations shared a pragmatic and surprisingly deep friendship in a hostile region. Iran was a major supplier of oil to Israel, a critical resource that fueled its economy and military. This was a relationship built not on shared values, but on mutual interests. Both countries saw the surrounding Arab states, particularly the Soviet-aligned regimes, as a common threat. This shared sense of vulnerability forged an unlikely alliance that benefited both governments for many years. In return for its vital oil supply, Israel provided Iran with more than just goodwill. It became a key source of advanced weaponry, agricultural technology, and crucial intelligence services. Israeli military advisors worked with their Iranian counterparts, and intelligence agencies cooperated to keep watch on shared adversaries across the Middle East. This strategic cooperation was a cornerstone of regional politics, a hidden axis of power that maintained a delicate balance. For the leaders in both Tehran and Tel Aviv, the arrangement was a practical solution to the complex geopolitical challenges they both faced during the Cold War era. This era of cooperation came to a sudden and dramatic end in 1979. The Iranian Islamic Revolution, led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, completely redrew the map of the Middle East. The Shah was overthrown, and with him, the entire foundation of Iran's foreign policy. The new clerical regime was built on a foundation of revolutionary Shiite Islam and a fierce anti-Western, anti-imperialist ideology. Israel, once a strategic partner, was now ideologically rebranded. It was cast as an illegitimate occupier of holy lands and a key agent of American influence in the region. The transformation was immediate and absolute. Ayatollah Khomeini famously labeled the United States the Great Satan and Israel the Little Satan. All diplomatic and economic ties were severed overnight. The new Iranian government declared its unwavering support for the Palestinian cause and began a decades-long policy of exporting its revolutionary ideals. This ideological shift was not just rhetorical. It became the central organizing principle of Iran's new role in the world. The era of quiet partnership was over, replaced by a new reality of permanent and deeply felt enmity that would define their relationship for generations to come. For over 40 years following the revolution, the conflict between Israel and Iran was fought in the shadows. It was an undeclared, invisible war, waged through proxies, spies, and sabotage. Iran, unable to confront Israel's military directly, adopted a strategy of asymmetric warfare. It funded, trained, and armed a network of militant groups across the region, creating what is often called the axis of resistance. Groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in the Palestinian territories became Iran's powerful surrogates, capable of launching attacks on Israel and extending Tehran's influence right to its borders. Israel responded to this proxy threat with its own covert campaign. Its intelligence agencies like the Mossad were tasked with disrupting Iran's plans from the inside. This involved a wide range of clandestine activities, from sabotaging Iran's nuclear facilities with sophisticated cyber attacks, to allegedly assassinating key Iranian nuclear scientists on the streets of Tehran. Israeli forces also carried out countless airstrikes in Syria, targeting weapons shipments and Iranian military personnel to prevent advanced missiles from reaching Hezbollah. This long-running shadow war was a deadly game of cat and mouse, fought far from the public eye. The old rules of engagement, however, began to shatter after the Hamas attack of October 2023. The conflict, once contained to proxies and covert actions, started escalating into direct military clashes. In April 2024, an Israeli airstrike on an Iranian consulate building in Damascus, Syria, killed several high-ranking Iranian generals. This was a bold move that crossed a red line for Tehran. It was a direct attack on what Iran considered its sovereign territory, demanding a public and forceful response that would change the nature of the conflict forever, pushing both nations closer to the brink of all-out war. Iran's retaliation was historic and unprecedented. For the first time ever, it launched a direct attack on Israeli territory from its own soil. A massive barrage of over 300 drones and missiles was fired towards Israel in April 2024, followed by another large-scale missile strike in October. While most projectiles were intercepted by Israel's advanced air defenses and its international allies, the psychological barrier had been broken. the shadow war was now out in the open, Israel responded with its own strikes on military and nuclear sites inside Iran, marking a terrifying new chapter of direct state-on-state confrontation. Alongside the physical battlefield, a parallel war is being fought for the hearts and minds of people around the globe. This is the invisible war of perception, waged on social media, in news reports, and through sophisticated information campaigns. Both Israel and Iran invest heavily in shaping the global narrative to their advantage. Iran's state-controlled media, such as Press TV, consistently frames the conflict in ideological terms, referring to Israel not by its name but as the Zionist entity to deny its very legitimacy. This message is then amplified by a network of online troll farms and cyber operatives. These Iranian influence operations are designed to be subtle and pervasive. They often involve creating fake social media accounts that impersonate journalists, activists, or even ordinary Israeli citizens to sow discord and spread disinformation. These accounts share doctored images, fabricated stories, and emotionally charged content designed to portray Israel as a brutal aggressor and to rally support for Iran's anti-Zionist cause. The goal is to erode international support for Israel and to paint its military actions as illegitimate war crimes, thereby isolating it on the world stage and validating Iran's position as a regional power. Israel, in turn, engages in its own extensive public diplomacy and information warfare. Its official messaging consistently frames its actions as necessary acts of self-defense against a dangerous and expansionist Iranian regime bent on acquiring nuclear weapons. The Israeli government and its supporters use social media to highlight the threats posed by Iran's proxies, sharing videos of rocket attacks from Hezbollah and Hamas to justify its military responses. These campaigns are aimed at Western audiences, emphasizing shared democratic values and the existential threat Israel faces in a hostile neighborhood, thereby securing political and military support from key allies. Beyond official channels, private groups have also entered the fray, further blurring the lines between information and disinformation. Reports have surfaced about Israeli firms allegedly involved in spreading propaganda to manipulate public opinion in other countries. On the other side, pro-Iranian actors have weaponized leaked intelligence, as seen in June 2025 when a former CIA analyst's leak of classified Israeli military plans was published by a pro-Iranian Telegram account. In this digital fog of war, viral memes, TikTok videos, and competing accusations make it increasingly difficult for the average person to separate fact from fiction. The relentless cycle of attacks and counterattacks carries a profound human cost, a reality often lost in the headlines about drones and missiles. For ordinary civilians in both Israel and Iran, the conflict brings a constant state of anxiety and disruption. When air raid sirens wail, life grinds to a halt. In cities across Israel, families rush to bomb shelters, their daily routines shattered by the fear of incoming projectiles. In Iran, while direct attacks have been less frequent, the threat of Israeli retaliation creates a similar atmosphere of dread, compounded by economic hardship from sanctions and government repression. The impact is even more devastating in the regions where proxy wars are fought. Since late 2023, the border between Israel and Lebanon has become a depopulated war zone. Over 150,000 people have been forced to flee their homes on both sides of the border, their towns and villages transformed into battlegrounds. Lebanese authorities have reported hundreds of civilian casualties from Israeli strikes targeting Hezbollah infrastructure embedded in populated areas. This displacement and loss create deep-seated trauma that will linger for years, fueling cycles of anger and resentment that make lasting peace seem ever more distant. The rivalry between Israel and Iran extends far beyond their borders, threatening to pull the entire Middle East into a catastrophic regional war. A full-scale conflict would not be limited to two countries. It would inevitably draw in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and potentially other Gulf states. The specter of Iran's nuclear program hangs over everything, raising the terrifying possibility of a regional arms race or, in the worst-case scenario, a nuclear confrontation. The economic consequences would be global, as a major war in the Middle East would send shockwaves through international oil markets, crippling economies worldwide. This is why the invisible war between Israel and Iran matters to everyone, no matter where they live. The stability of the entire world is connected to the fragile peace of this volatile region. As citizens of a globally connected world, it is essential to look past the propaganda and understand the complex realities on the ground. We must question the information we consume, seek out diverse and credible sources, and recognize the humanity on all sides of the conflict. The path to de-escalation begins with a clear-eyed understanding of the stakes and a commitment to seeking truth behind the headlines.